All righty, welcome to Eddie V live show, another installment. We're still going strong. We're trying to break what the fifth episode is like where everyone quits, or so I've heard. So we're trying to break that real quick. I wanted to get a good episode in, maybe another one this week. I am so tired, but I'm like, I gotta do this, gotta stay consistent, gotta keep going. Imagine doing this 5 nights a week. um, Impressive. I was literally before I went live. I was thinking, how do streamers do this? I already forgot like everything I want to say. It's like right before you click it, you're like, oh, what was I going to talk about? Everything's gone. No, but it's good to be here tonight with the MT live chat. Hopefully, one day it'll be filled with angry and lovely people challenging me on all my views. Maybe one day. But it's good to be here with you. Today, there's a lot of random stuff I want to talk about. It kind of is not going to go the way I thought it was going to go, but I was thinking a lot today. I've been thinking the days before about things I wanted to cover, and today I was like, no, like there's something else, some other things I want to cover. In my life, I've been thinking about. The first thing I want to talk about is in the church, in the Catholic Church, this weird balance, weird dichotomy that's happening with like right and left and all this stuff. So full disclosure, I definitely consider myself traditional, whatever that means, and whatever people think it means, you have rad trad and traditionalism, traditionalist, all this stuff. Usually tied to the Latin Mass, the Tridentine Mass. And then you also have like the left or the liberals or the progressives. And it's just, I was just thinking about it today. I'm of the opinion that we're all very liberal. What does that mean? Liberalism is egalitarianism. There's no truth. It's just like evil is just not letting people do what they want to do as long as it doesn't hurt someone else. That's basically liberalism. You got obsessions with definitions of freedom that are not the classical or Christian definitions of freedom. Stuff like that. We're all liberal. Even the right wing in the church, I would say, is super liberal. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. What I want to talk about was this is so interesting right now, the current situation in the church, is you have the liberal side, which I'm not a fan of, but they're so bland. Now, there's not really, maybe there is in the more extreme liberalism, but the mainstream liberalism, which you could maybe argue affects a lot of the church or a lot of the people in the church, maybe especially in America. I'll talk about America because that's where I live. Is very. It's not like I wouldn't say it's radical. Maybe there's extremes. It's not very radical. I think you'd have a regular liberal Catholic that would be like, yes, there is no such thing as gay marriage, pro-life, etc. I know on the fringes there are Catholics that are pro-choice. Are they even Catholic? I don't even know. I don't think so. Well, I don't know who gets to decide that, but that is an erroneous view. But it seems most of the times they're just like kind of lame. They're not really doing anything crazy. They don't want anything traditional. They want to be nicey nice. They don't want to have dig deep into any sort of church teachings or anything like that. But I wouldn't say they're like preaching heresy or anything, as far as I'm aware. Maybe I'll think of something. I'm like, oh, that was heresy. It's just like very bland moralisms. Nothing too wild. And then on the right wing, you almost have a like an extremism of everything going on. Which some of it, I guess I agree with, and some of it is a little bonkers. An example, I think a good example is, and this is an extreme example, I understand, but it seems like it's infecting a lot of people, is the Candace Owens phenomenon, which is we're going to believe in every single conspiracy theory except for the ones that matter. Except for the ones that matter. She's like, from what I've heard, I used to watch her semi frequently, and she just got too crazy. because I was excited because she became Catholic. Thought it would be a good thing, and it was a good thing, I think, for a little bit. But she's constantly talking about aliens and reading people's minds or going into dreams. And I heard it in a dream. I know people have covered this. Nick Fuentes has covered this a lot in a very funny way, which is awesome. But it just seems like that's infecting not only the right politically, but the right of the church, where it's like everything is a conspiracy. And even when it gets into the actual church, the structure of the church, the hierarchy, I've heard some crazy theories. I've been talking to people recently. Hopefully, one of them is probably going to watch this. I'm not going to talk about what we talked about, but I've heard in the past. I remember people telling me this crazy stuff about Pope Benedict, how he was like under house arrest after he had stepped down. So when he was emeritus, and he was under house arrest by his secretary, and they were like torturing him or something, and he was fearful for his life. But he secretly had written a encyclical on Our Lady, and they wouldn't let him release it. All this stuff. And for me, I'm like, I don't really want to look into that, but if you have any evidence, I'll take it. And there's just no evidence I heard. And I've just been dwelling. It's so fascinating. I wonder, and maybe this sounds a little conspiracy. I wonder if that's planted stuff, or it's just too hard of a reaction to the liberalism that I would, undoubtedly was infecting the church and still is, in my opinion. And people just went the totally opposite way, but was just also very, I would say, maybe not liberal, but erroneous and just not fact based. The same way that liberalism and modernism kind of treated the supernatural and scripture, the history of the church in the early 1900s, late 1800s, even up until Vatican II and after it. We can look back on that and be like, wow, that was terrible scholarship. That was just awful, probably malicious, but now it just seems to have flipped the totally other side. And now it seems where the liberals were the ones, traditionally, the liberals were the ones in the past that were very against authority. And they fought against it tooth and nail, maybe still do in some cases. But now that also seems to have shifted to the right. And these words, the left and right thing is probably going to fall apart eventually. But it's shifted to the right, where now you have the right. The right wants what they want, and they're going really hard at it, and they're willing to shrug off authority too. And for myself, I'm like, it's all just Protestant. It's all Protestant. That might be too simplistic, but it's all just this desire to shrug off authority, shrug it off. And why that is, I think people just want what they want. And sometimes they get so desperate that they're willing to do whatever it takes. So that's what I've been thinking about. It's not a fully fledged thought. I want to get on this and speak to everyone, get my thoughts out there, keep grinding. And when I got an idea, I don't want to think about it for 1,000 years. I do think I should think about it a little bit, but I don't want to think about it 1,000 years and then, it just goes away. So I wanted to get that out there. And then I was thinking about, in my discussions recently with some people, Vatican I, or just the councils in general, like people's thoughts on the councils of the Catholic Church. In my opinion, it doesn't seem like people read them a lot. And every time I read them to people, they're very dismissive of them. And I'm very curious about what that attitude means. And I'm talking about both sides. So I've always described myself, and you can ask people that know me. I mean, you don't know them, so that's dumb. Don't ask them, it doesn't matter. But I'm always in the sandwich. I'm always in the wedge between the right and the left. And one thing I like to do, I like to read primary sources. When I'm talking about the church, I like to read about the proper authorities of the church to properly understand those authorities. And so when I'm reading Vatican I and no one cares about the right or left, it's just crazy to me. So I really wanted to just get on here and read some of Vatican I because it doesn't seem like anyone knows it. Obviously, my professors know about it. Certain professors and different theologians very specifically know about it, but these are freely available. Anyone can read them, and most of the times the canons are pretty short. It's not like, oh, I don't want to slug through. It's like it's not that long at all. So I wanted to read some of the radical stuff from Vatican I, just to kind of give an example of what the church thinks of authority, especially when it comes to Peter. Yeah, and this is going to come as a shock to people. Maybe not a shock, but the right and the left, they're both not going to like it for their different reasons. Which, what can I do? So these are, and I wrote down where these are from. These are from the Vatican I documents, 1870. I'm going to be reading two sections from the fourth session, the 18th of July, 1870. And this is called the First Dogmatic Constitution on the Church of Christ. And the first one's going to be from chapter 2.5. So I'm going to read this off my phone here. So chapter 2.5 says, and these are anathemas. I do miss the anathemas. Vatican II did not have any of those. First one, I think that didn't have an anathema, if I'm not mistaken. Therefore, if anyone says that it is not by the institution of Christ, the Lord himself, that is to say, by divine law, that blessed Peter should have perpetual successors in the primacy over the whole church, or that the Roman pontiff is not the successor of blessed Peter in this primacy, let him be anathema. End quote. So yeah, I just want to read it. Do I have to say anything about it? I mean, don't be sedevacantist. Maybe, and I know they'll say that's a simplistic argument. I'm not trying to argue here. I'm just reading from Vatican I, and hopefully other people can read it too. People that are sedevacantist post-Vatican I, pre-Vatican, or post-Vatican I, post-Vatican II, I guess it would be pre-Vatican II because they don't believe Vatican II was a real thing, I guess. Some of them. If you're one of those, Vatican I should be an official council. This is a dogmatic constitution. This is an anathema. So no reason, as far as I'm aware, unless you have something that I don't know, that you should not be listening to this. And then the second one's going to be from chapter 3.9. And this one's a little longer, but it says, so that if anyone says that the Roman pontiff has merely an office of supervision and guidance, and not the full and supreme power of jurisdiction over the whole church, and this not only in matters of faith and morals, not only in matters of faith and morals, but also in those which concern the discipline and government of the church dispersed throughout the whole world, or that he is only the principal part but not the absolute fullness of this supreme power, or that this power of his is not ordinary and immediate, both over all in each of the churches and over all in each of the pastors and faithful, let him be anathema. So this one I think is super powerful. Not only in faith and morals. So this council is also the one that talks about ex cathedra statements. I'm not going to go over that today. But the Pope is the boss of the church. And I know right now, because we have popes that I would say lean liberal or are liberal, the non-liberals, the right wing, they're liberal too, but they're going to be angry about that. And then if there's ever a more traditional, or I'll even say, I don't even know if I want to say this, but right wing pope, the left is going to complain about it. But we have to understand authority. Where does it come from? Why do we believe the things we believe? Who gets to decide what the Catholic Church professes? Does Jim, Bob, Bill get to decide that? That's a very Protestant attitude. That is the Protestant attitude right now. Is that, no, I know better than the magisterium. The Pope is wrong. Or the Pope is evil and therefore he's wrong. It's like, I don't know how you can go there. And I'm in discussions with people, so I want to keep it clean, but I just wanted to read those. So yeah, I wanted to cover that little interesting present moment between the right and the left in the church, and then the Vatican I documents. And the last thing I want to talk about was Tucker Carlson. So this is going to get a little political. But so Tucker Carlson, is going on seems like, I don't really watch a lot of his stuff, but there's one thing that's bothering me. But he's going on a crusade against Israel. Obviously, we're in the Iran war right now. It's pretty pretty insane that we've gotten to this point. But this thing he keeps doing, and I'm sure Nick Fuentes has addressed this. If he has or hasn't, I'm not aware, but I'm fairly certain he would have. But Tucker keeps doing this thing where he always brings up this blood guilt thing. That Nick Fuentes is talking about world Jewry, Jews being involved in that. And Tucker Carlson's like, well, I can't do his voice. I'm not going to make a voice. But he's always saying, oh, you can't, that's sinful. You can't blame people because of their blood. And just because someone's a Jew doesn't mean that you can say they're this or that. And I just think he's purposefully or just ignorant of just basic logic what Nick Fuentes and those on the far right wing are saying about the world Jewry situation. They're not saying they're guilty because of their blood. At least I've never heard them say that. Maybe there's some Nazis out there or something that believe that. But it's a very specific argument. It's saying that there can be tribal loyalty, whether it's national, whether it's familial, whether it's religious, whether it's ethnic, whether it's racial, whatever you want to call it. And it could be another thing. All these people that like rock climbing, they band together for rock, whatever it is. That's kind of a silly example, but just to get the broadness of that statement across. It's like, is it possible, Tucker, at all that in world Jewry, Jews work together, not all Jews, and not because of their blood, but because of their actual or perceived ties to other Jews, they work together for their common goals. I don't see how that is so difficult to understand. Whether it's perceived fear, actual fear, unity of nation, unity of religion, unity of ethnicity. Is it beyond the pale? Is it beyond possibility that people do that? Other ethnicities, religions, races. I'm a Catholic. I have an affinity for other Catholics. I believe I'm even commanded by. It might have been St. Paul. Maybe I shouldn't go this. I'm going to back out of that. But as a Catholic, of course, I want to take care of other Catholics. Obviously, our Lord tells us we need to care for our neighbor no matter what. A neighbor is any person that is in need of God's love and his neighbor's assistance. But I do have an affinity for other Catholics. I feel like I can trust them more. We have the same metaphysic. They should be believing in a lot of the stuff that I believe, which helps me to move forward with them in different actions. And so is it impossible that this also applies to Jews in world Jewry? I can't believe he's not understanding. I feel like it has to be malicious. But again, I don't know how smart he is, and I don't know how much he's looked into it. But that's really frustrating me, and so I wanted to get that across because it's like he's going on the whole gambit of whatever podcasts or shows or whatever, and just saying the same thing. I'm against blood guilt. I'm against blood. It's like, bro, no one's saying that. At least not anyone I'm aware of. So yeah, Tucker, he's not going to hear this, but if you guys are hearing this, the situation is that the U.S. is very much, I don't want to exaggerate it, but it seems like we're just in the clutches of Israel. World Jewry, Jewish power, you could even say. There's Muslim power, there's Catholic power, and there's Jewish power. Jewish power is real. And it seems like America is so captured by it, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be a way out anytime soon because people are so. It's the Candace Owens things again too. She is convoluting this problem so much, on purpose or not, who only she knows, and maybe people around her. It's just so mixed up and confusing, and I can't even talk to people around me about this because it's just such a trigger happy. Everyone's got like that Candace Owens take, maybe not necessarily hers, but like this immediate like, you're an anti-Semite. Okay, well, we can't talk about it. You're a racist. Blood guilt. I haven't heard that one yet, but I'm sure it's coming. So it's a real discussion we need to have politically. I would argue even religiously too. And it seems like it's getting out into the religious discussion. And I'm sure E. Michael Jones has talked about this a ton too. Check out Nick Fuentes and E. Michael Jones if you haven't. They actually disagree with each other a lot too, which is interesting. Both Catholic, both faithful Catholics, but both at the tip of the spear when it comes to these modern issues, and no one else is approaching these in the correct way. So kudos to them. So I'm entering the fray as a person who has no influence or anything, but I did want to talk about that. So that's that. I will say I will have the new equipment hopefully starting this week, and I'm hoping to try it out for the week's episode. I've been thinking about something all week to talk about. This is kind of just an impromptu one. I seem to be building a little habit here, 2 weeks in a row, an impromptu middle of the week episode. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm hoping to have the new equipment, new mic, new camera, new computer, very expensive. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to keep doing it. I think I have 3 subscribers, so please share this. Even if you disagree with me and you think I'm going to give it to someone so they can wreck him, please do. That'd be cool to have some online interaction. We can have some discussion, whether messaging or over video. But for now, God bless you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you're watching this, just for funsies. You never know what you might hear, and you can disagree with me. But for now, God bless you, and I'll see you next time.